In this video, I'm going to be showing you two methods that you can use to merge or combine multiple tables in Excel so that you can create one block of data that you can use for analysis. And I'm going to be doing this using the formula method as well as using the Power Query. Now, without wasting a lot of your time, let's head over into this video. Now, let us start by looking at the data set that we're going to be using in this example. We have our facts table here, and in the facts table, we are keeping the date or the transaction date, the product ID, the sales rep, the quantities that were sold, as well as the price. Now, we also have two more dimensional tables that we're going to be combining together with this facts table to create one block of data that we can use to answer specific business questions. Our first dimensional table contains details about the product, and we also have details about our sales rep. Now, using this current facts table that we have right here, we cannot easily answer business questions like how many units did we sell in a given country. We cannot do that because we do not have the column for country, so we need to create it. And maybe we can't also answer a question, how many units of cables did we actually sell? This particular table here is not sufficient enough to give us that report. So what we need to do is to connect these three tables together so that we can start answering those business questions. The first approach, we're going to be using the formula method, and we're going to be using either VLOOKUP, XLOOKUP, or index match. The choice is yours, but for me, I'm going to be using the XLOOKUP right here. So I'll create another column here, and I'll call this one the product. I want to bring in the product names, okay? So in here, I'll say equals, and now I open the XLOOKUP function. What am I going to be searching for? I'm going to be searching for the product ID. And for the lookup array argument, where am I searching this particular product ID from? From this particular column. So I highlight this entire column in my dimensional table and lock it, comma. What do I want to return? That is the return array argument. I want to return the product name. So I highlight this particular column and F4 key to lock it on the keyboard. I can close this XLOOKUP formula from here and hit enter key on the keyboard. You can see wherever I have product ID 001, it returns the corresponding product name. That is step number one. I'm going to be adding another column here so that I can bring in my country. So this column will be country. And for this one, we're going to be using the same formula, equals XLOOKUP. And we're going to be searching for the sales rep. Yes, it's the sales rep that is known to us inside this particular dimensional table, comma, and the lookup array, it's going to be the sales rep column in our second dimensional table. Lock it on the keyboard by pressing F4 key, comma, and the return array, we would like to return the country column. So I just highlight this entire country column, F4 key to lock it on the keyboard, and I can close this XLOOKUP function from here, hit enter key on the keyboard. Now you can see wherever there is sales rep Aisha, it's returning the country where this guy comes from. Okay, now that we have this block of data, we can answer business questions like how much did we sell in a given country, or how many units did we sell of either cables or any product that we have in this facts table. So what you can do is to click anywhere, go to the insert tab, and let us create a pivot table here. So I'm going to be creating a pivot report in an existing worksheet here. Let me place it right here, and then I will say okay. So for this one, I'll go for country. I drag it into the rows, and I also pick this quantity column and drag it into the values. In just two simple clicks, I know how much we sold in terms of quantities in each individual country. The beauty of working with Excel tables is that they are dynamic. In case new data came in into any of these tables, what I need to do in my report here is to refresh, and this new data will be fetched right here. So what I'm going to be doing to test this is I'll create a new product here. Maybe let us call this one tables, just as an example. And for the product ID, we shall say PRD006. And we're going to be also creating another sales rep here. So I'll call this guy Moses, and maybe he's coming from Congo. Okay. Now let us go ahead and create a transaction just below this table here. So today is 11th of September 2024, and I want a transaction that belongs to our new product that we have just created, PRD006. And this particular transaction belongs to Moses, and maybe is actually doing, let's say, 1,000 or 10,000 transactions. I want to add a very big number so that we can note the difference inside our pivot table report. So let us say 10,000 in terms of units, and maybe is selling each unit at $20. You can see immediately I entered the product ID here, the product name was able to pop up automatically, and immediately I entered in the sales rep name, the country where they come from was able to pop in automatically in here. Now let us go back to our pivot table so that we can refresh and see if these new changes will come in here. I just click in the pivot table report, right mouse click and refresh. Immediately I do that, you can see Congo values popping in automatically. So that's method one of combining multiple tables using formulas. Now let us look at how we can do the same using the Power Query. So to do this using the Power Query, what we need to do is to establish connections to all these three tables and later on merge them together. So how do we do that? You click in the table, head over to the Data tab, Get Data from other sources, and then you choose this option, Table Orange. Immediately you do that, this will launch into the Power Query editor. What I need to do is to come over to the File menu, Close and Load to. So I'm going to be establishing a connection only to this particular table. I'll say only create a connection, and then I say OK. This will create this particular query, and it will be added here in the queries and connections pane. Now the next step is to also click in this dimensional table, get data from other sources, table orange. Once this small dimensional table launches inside the Power Query editor, no transformations needed here. What we need is to go to the File menu, Close and Load it to, and let us establish only a connection to this table, and then say OK. So you can see our second query is added right here in the Queries and Connections pane. Now the next last step is to bring in this table into Power Query. So you tap anywhere in the table, go to the Data tab, Get Data from other sources, table orange. And when the Power Query editor opens, similarly what we shall do here is to close and load to. Go to File, Close and Load to, and establish a connection to this table as well. Now that we have all the three queries showing up here inside our Queries and Connections pane, we can now merge these queries together. Now for us to combine these three queries, what we shall do is to come over to the Get Data button, and in here you will see Combine Queries option. So you click in here once and it will show you these two options, Merge and Append. Our interest is to merge these tables. So I'll pick the first option. This will launch into the Merge dialog box. So what I need to do here is select the bigger table so that it sits on top. And the bigger table in this case is the Facts table. So I'll click in the drop down and go for this Facts Transactions table. They'll give me a preview here of the columns contained in this particular table. What do I need to merge this table with? Let's go with the products dimensional table first. So I'll pick this table right here. What I need to do at this point is to look for a column that can create a connection between these two tables. When I check here, I have the product name and I also have the product ID. When I check up in this table, I have the product ID, I have the date and the sales rep. Now, the product ID column is a column that can establish a connection between these two tables. And what I need to do here is to tap these particular two columns in each individual table like so. And the join kind here that I will use is the left outer, all from first, matching from the second. Make sure that you have this tick mark placed automatically. Once you see that, everything is fine. I'll say okay. So when this launches into the Power Query editor, what I need to do is to expand this particular column that we have just added. I just click in these arrows like so. And in here, let us filter out the column that we are interested in. We would like to bring in the product name itself. So I'll just remove a tick mark of the product ID and also remove this tick mark from using the original column name as a prefix. And then I say, okay, and there you go. Now you can see our products have come through nicely. What I can do now is to close and load. So I'll say File, Close and Load. I want to load this query, and I also create a connection only, because remember, I also need to merge this new query with our second dimensional table that has our sales rep locations. Okay, so I'll say okay, and this new merged query will be added right here. Feel free to come in and rename this query. So I'll call this one merge step 1 and hit enter. Now let us go back to our get data button and then combine queries. I'll go for merge. Now this time I'm gonna be picking this merge step query or merge step table. So I'll just click this merge step table right here. And now I'd like to merge this with our sales rep locations, which is the sales rep table. Now what we need to do here is to look for that particular column that can create a connection between these two tables. And in this case, it will be the sales rep, because we also have sales rep here and we also have sales rep in this table. So make sure you hold the control key and tap on these two columns together. Please make sure that the join kind is left to the default, and then you say okay. This will launch you into the Power Query editor one more time. And in here, once this column shows up here, it will show as a table, but we need to expand it right here so that we can filter out that particular column that we are interested in bringing into this table. So our column here that we want to bring in is the country. So I'll place a check mark of the sales rep, because the sales rep is already sitting in this table. And now I'll say remove this tick mark to use the original column name as a prefix, and then say okay. So this will print in the country for each individual sales rep. And now this is our final table that now we can load and use for analysis. So what I will do, I'll say File, Close and Load to. This time I'm not going to be loading it as a connection only. I'm going to be loading it as a table. And then I'll create a new worksheet. This will bring this particular table together, and now I can rename this worksheet from here, combined data. And with this particular data set, we can now start answering some business questions. I believe you learned a thing or two, and if you did, please let me know in the comment section of this video. Like this video, do not forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel so that you do not miss such classes like this. And by the way, watch the next video that is showing on your screen so that you can take your Excel skills to the next level. See you there. Bye-bye.